our stream should be live on LinkedIn, right? Let's wait for a few seconds, a minute, for people to sign up on or join LinkedIn. Um, Sometimes with this Riverside, normally it does go live on LinkedIn well, but sometimes it just messes up the link. So yeah, I hope it's all good. Right. If you're good, I think we are good to kick off. People will join once they get notified through LinkedIn and through Luma. The event is live. People will join. But I think if you both are good, then I'm good to kick off today's session. Yep.
Yep.
All right, folks. Welcome to the new episode of NotchUp podcast Beyond the Code. This is the first one for 2026 that we are doing. Um, we had about 12 episodes in 2025. That was the first year we started doing podcasts. We had some incredible guests. We touched upon a lot of topics when it comes to building high performing engineering teams. We had guests talking about the innovation mindset, the innovation culture. We had guests talking about HR in general and attracting talent in specific. We also had engineering leaders talking about nurturing their engineering departments, the talent within them, how they really go about doing their things, how things are changing with all these agentic and AI tools and platforms that are being continuously developed. I think the way we run our engineering operations has been changing really fast. There are two sides to the equation. One is the engineering output, as in the code and the softwares and the platforms that you build. That's being changed on how you're building that. But also the other side of the equation, like the teams, the departments, the operations, that's also is changing. Like, what kind of team structures do you have? What kind of roles and responsibilities do you have? How do people work together, and so on? So I think all of that is currently in the flux, right? And whatever maybe I think is happening today, possibly in 2 weeks' time, may be changing, right? So everything we're going to talk about may not hold true for too long, right? Uh, Anyways, without too much delay, today I have two guests, as you can see on the podcast. Let me first introduce Anjon. So until now, I have been mainly a solo founder for NotchUp, and I've been iterating and experimenting on how you would go about building and running an engineering software engineering department. And then in the summer of 2025, I and Anjon met through startup founders community. We started talking about the stuff that I've been looking into. He had prior experiences within that, and then we decided to work together on the problem statement. So Anjon, he recently joined me as my co-founder for NotchUp. Anjon, why don't you introduce yourself quickly?
Thanks, Malik, and nice to meet everyone here. Yeah, Anshin Roy, very happy to be here. Really excited to kick off 2026 with our first Notch Up podcast, live podcast, and my personal first one. So pleasure to meet everyone, and thank you all for joining us. Everyone live,
Yeah.
or everyone who will be watching this on the recording after it's released.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Anjan. And the first guest for 2026 is none other than Levi. And we had an episode recorded with him last year, and we talked a lot about talent, talent operations, building the culture of innovation, performance, efficiency, and so on. And we touched upon a lot of points during that. But I felt that there was still more for us to talk and connect on, right? So we reached out to Levi. Sorry, I keep mispronouncing your name. It's Levi, right? Or Levi, sorry, I get it wrong,
Maybe.
right? It's
Yeah.
Levi, right? So I thought we need to reach out back to Levi and get more of his insights especially given the kind of work he does with the growing tech companies, particularly in the US. And I thought maybe it would be a great start for the new year for us to have Levi again as our guest. Just for a quick reminder for the people who have not seen the previous episode, Levi, please let's just introduce ourselves quickly about the work, your background, and the work you do.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so I also founded WezOps. This is a consulting firm where I work and specialize in talent operations and now HR operations too. So helping companies with their struggles, systems, data, like all that. And I have like over 18 years now of experience in many different HR areas. And around 10 years working in other areas, projects on the side that match the same skills as we need in HR, finance, marketing, purchasing now, but yeah.
Yeah, that's great, Levi. Great to have
Thank you.
you as a guest again this year.
Yes, thank
And
you.
today we're going to mainly talk about um, the way engineering tech departments are being like built and scaled, right? And apologies for rest of the folks who may be listening. We generally talk about engineering department because I think that's our background. That's what we have been incredibly focused on, I'm pretty sure what we talk for this particular department, a lot of that will also be applicable to rest of the departments. But generally, we're going to talk about attracting the talent, what's change, what are the things employers are looking for, what are the changes in the way you go about attracting and nurturing your talent, some systems, some possibly some controversial news in the industry and so on, right? So we're going to cover all of those topics. But let's start with the first question. And John, I think you have a lot of questions that maybe you wanna start with. Why don't you start with your first ask?
Thank you, Malik. So, Levi, as this is all the talk and the hype and excitement around AI, and one general trend we're seeing, or at least a narrative that seems certainly very credible, is that AI is deflating the cost of intelligence. So, as a talent ops leader focused on knowledge workers and knowledge industries, and our focus on tech in particular, which is clearly a knowledge industry and a core part of it. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in talent and people operations from this impact of AI, and how is it? And have certain trends accelerated? Have they maybe they were trending harder a year ago and now they've decelerated a little bit? So, what are the trends you're seeing, as well as the changes of those trends themselves? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think last year we saw a lot about a lot of new sourcing tools, a couple of scheduling tools, but nothing, for onboarding. Well, a couple of others, but I think a lot of I don't know, my circle I was involved, they were speaking a lot about top of the funnel, like how we resolve. We are getting 10,000 candidates for each job post that we have. How do we check all of them, or at least half of them? No, that was a lot of what I saw last year, and a lot of the recruiters and talent teams, they were really focused on resolving that. No, like how do we spend less time on the top of the funnel and then we move forward with the other stages of the process. I think this year I have not seen a lot of news. I think what I heard more is about AI screening. I think that was the first thing I saw like a couple of weeks ago. It's been really interesting that, for example, we saw companies acquiring other companies to then grow the services that they offer. No, I don't know if you have heard about Humally. They acquired 3 companies last year. No, like that is They are integrating more and more things into their systems and then expanding that, so users can have like a full suite of services with them. And they were specifically focused on AI screening. I think they had a chatbot. They then added sourcing specific things in their system, and then now more and more functions for scheduling and other things. So I don't know if also the trend is that, not like companies acquiring more and more other tiny companies to then enhance their products and make them like a full suite of tools. That's one thing. But on this other thing, the AI screening, I don't know if that's the right path, but I've seen a couple of companies telling, yeah, this year is going to explode. No, AI screening. We are going to screen 10,000 candidates, all the candidates that you receive in your applications, and then we will match the best for you. I'm also thinking that.
Sorry, I want to pause you there, right? I mean, attracting the top of the funnel, right? Getting a pool of applicants and then filtering them out. And certainly AI agentic tools have been one of the area that has really exploded in this one, right? I think YC also funded a lot of startups in this space. But I have always kind of believed that this is probably like an AI versus AI game and a race to the bottom, in my view, right? And I could be wrong, but at least what I think is there are AI enabled, ATS application tracking systems and job posting platforms, which effectively post a lot of jobs and do the initial screening of the candidates. And then you have the AI CV generators and application tools. So candidates are also utilizing similar tools to basically apply to a lot of jobs that they probably have no clue about, like what is the team, what is the company, and then they are applying, trying to be the perfect candidate. And on the other side, you have tools which are kind of eliminating maybe two perfect candidates, right? So what's your view there, right? And again, what would you recommend a possible or potential hiring manager, to look out for? Like, how can they make sure that they are getting in front of the right talent, and vice versa? How can a talent make sure that they are getting in front of the right hiring manager?
Yes, I think that specific topic is something I discussed actually during this and last week with a couple of friends. We were discussing a lot, like um, we are seeing this from like maybe a year and a half, no? And what we actually mentioned in our previous podcast, no? One AI is talking to the other AI, and no human is in there. Like candidates create resumes, apply with AI, and then on the other hand, recruiters they score candidates using AI and then choose the top 10 shortlist with a hiring manager, and then like they actually don't even review candidates anymore. Like they are just passing to make the process more efficient or fast, like that. Because at the end, the goal of recruiters is higher. Like that is the end goal. And I think this year, like what we should start thinking, instead of maybe going with the AI screening and scheduling and all these things, is more on how we rethink the way we put again humans into this. Because yeah, it's crazy that I can create the perfect resume, I can get 2, 3 interviews, and then being hired. I can also put my phone here, read responses while I'm on an interview. I've seen that a lot. And then hiring managers, they are like, wow, this guy is incredible, no? And then the first 2, 3 months, we are seeing results that they didn't expect. I think that is like what we should start thinking, no? Like how we put humans again back into the process, because AI is talking with AI and nobody else is. It's insane. What do you
Yeah,
think about that?
yeah. I mean, like I'm really skeptical about that, about AI. Like, to be honest, I think that top of the funnel for me right now just simply doesn't work. I also question, I think me and Anjon has been talking a lot about like resume. Are resume really the right tool to showcase a candidate's skills and capabilities and potential, right? What could be a new tool that can really represent a candidate, right? And again, I'm bringing in talking more from engineering point of view that, okay, if I am a software engineer or a solution architect, yes, I've built a lot of systems in past, but those systems and those framework are no longer relevant. Yes, I have some experience, but how do I showcase what potential, what can I do next, right? What am I interested in doing next? And resumes are always backward looking rather than forward looking, right?
Uh-huh.
I
Yes.
think the whole industry, like even the job specs, if you think about, they are always backward looking rather than forward looking,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
You talk
yeah. And
about,
I
okay,
think
sorry, you
it,
talk about the job responsibilities. Okay, this is what you need to do, you know, but your roadmap has changed. By the time you recruit somebody, your roadmap and backlog has changed, right? So whatever you wanted to do them today, in 2 months' time, may not be relevant. So how can you really, create that requirement more forward-looking?
yeah, yeah. I think the theory is where we need to think a lot again about the way we apply to jobs. One idea that I was discussing with these friends is that we switch on the other hand, like instead of recruiters posting jobs, we will have maybe like a job board of candidates. Like a candidate posts, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. Here are my specs. Like everything I've done. You can interview me." No, and that will shift completely the way we now see the things in the system. Currently, like I mentioned, now we post a job, we get 10,000 candidates. A recruiter just reviews 10, 20 maximum. They shortlist the ones that are best for the hiring manager, and that's it. But what would happen if we do, on the other hand, like recruiters search for candidates, then they really pay attention to what they are looking for, interview them, and then pass them. Not like instead of having a million job posts, like you can see on LinkedIn, you post a job and then 5,000 candidates now in 1 hour. I think it's maybe shifting like new ways of doing these type of things to make them more not only more human but also more efficient for recruiters and the teams. You think you're on mute?
Oh,
Yeah,
Malik, I think you're on mute. And
yeah. Sorry, I was just talking. Angel, yeah, go for it.
and Levi, yeah, thank you. That's great, Levi. If I may ask, I think our production folks have said that if you could talk a little bit louder, I think that would
Yes.
be helpful.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that. Thank you for that answer. Uh, where do you see along those lines that we've been talking about? What are you getting a sense, or what sense are you getting in terms of how companies are valuing their human capital now? How is it changing in terms of how they're valuing it writ large, just given the the ascendance of AI, and whether you want to call it an intelligence explosion, whether we've actually achieved that or not? I don't think it's quite there yet, though it may be headed there. But clearly, it's ascendant right now, AI. And how has that impacted how companies are valuing their human capital? Has it impacted? I suspect it has some impact, but what are some? Is there a trend or a vignette you can pull out from your experience and conversations that you have across industries?
Yes, what I've seen there is specifically on the annual reviews. No, what is happening now is that last year, for example, we saw that there was this explosion. No? A lot of different AI models helped you to do really specific things, and then we started to see more and more tools to solve like create presentations, create Word files, create everything. I think from there, what I saw specifically with a couple of clients was that they were now evaluating how well you adapted to using AI. And this is one of them, it's an enterprise client. They have like over 80,000 employees. And they were sharing that they needed to see the usage of Copilot, for example, no daily usage, and in which specific tools, Microsoft tools, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever, they were using also the Copilot integrations and results, like trying to match those. It was really difficult last year because a lot of people were not using the official company tools. They were using external tools to solve things. But that was one of the things that I saw that I'm seeing, for example, for this year. Like people now is preparing a lot of what they did last year with these tools to then start working. I don't know, there are companies in February that they do their annual reviews. So currently, I'm seeing one company that is doing that, and they are preparing this. So I really don't know, like, what we are going to see this year. I think they're going to try to match some of that. But I think we are still in this transition phase. We're going to see that this year, maybe next year, or maybe it accelerates next year, and then we resolve performance reviews. But if not, we are going to continually see like how people match expectations with the usage, or how you adapt to use AI tools also to provide better results, being more efficient, like all these buzzwords that the companies use.
Thank you for that. Malik, did you want to?
Yeah, Levi, I wanted to ask around, the way people are working within the departments, right? Now, again, I'll stick with the engineering department, right? And I have less experience with other departments, but within technology and engineering, right? Predominantly, previously, people were like engineers were hired to write the lines of code, like to do the task, right? Generally thinking will be like solution design, all those problem solving will be left with the senior folks, whereas like the actual software engineer's job predominantly would be writing the lines of code. Now that clearly is being impacted with an agentic coding, and it is now the expectations that most engineers will actually not write the lines of code, but they would do some kind of solution design and review the code that has been written by the AI, right? What are you seeing within that space? Like, how the expectations are changing, both from the hiring manager point of view, but as well as from candidate point of view.
Yes, I think that is another thing that I saw like a transition. I think this one was faster because I saw like people start to use Cursor or Claude and other solutions. I think where I saw more of this was on X, on Twitter. Software engineers were there sharing a lot of what we are going to do now that AI is solving everything, and I can ship 20 features every day when I was doing this every month, so that specific transition now is, instead of lines of code, I think now is how well you adapt to being an orchestrator. I think that is the word, like you orchestrate many of these AIs, tell them what to do, and then at the end you have actually another AI that reviews that code also. But I think it always depends on how deep you want to go, or if you have, for example, junior software engineers that you also want to give them experience, and then, hey, check all this spaghetti code, and help me to review if it's what we need, or if not, let's do another iteration of this code. I think that's what I saw, and I think HR in this specific case is a bit behind because software engineers, software manager engineers, they are telling now how this process is going to work, and on interviews specifically, I think it's the same. They are now checking how well you manage AI tools to solve specific things. Of course, they ask about algorithms, like how well you manage tokens now. These other questions, no? How you get history of token usage because we are exceeding, licenses, like all those kind of things. But now it's how we are shifting. They are shifting into those type of questions. Maybe, yeah, some basic computer science questions, databases or algorithms or these other things. But the shift is that, not like they are focusing on all these things.
Just a related question there again. Sorry, Anjan, I'm jumping in, but I just have a quick one. Um, like the whole agentic code writing is to increase the efficiencies within the technology or engineering department, right? But are you really seeing any impact over there? Do you think companies are moving faster? Do you think teams are being more productive, or they're just shifting work from one part to another? So they're spending maybe less time on writing code and spending more time on code reviews, for example, or cleaning up the code written by the algorithms, right? Uh,
Yeah,
what do you think? What are you saying?
yeah, I saw that there was a couple of months where people was really hesitant. Like we had models that they were not doing exactly what we needed. No, last year specifically, this was between February and October. There were models that were almost there, but you still need to review manually. Like a human need to review them manually a lot, no, by a lot, and then fix them. But now with the new models, now the new codecs from ChatGPT and Cloud and then other models that are helping a lot on this. The new functions with Cursor, the new anti-gravity application from Google. My God, these things are really helping to make things more efficient. And what I saw is that, yes, people are actually now sharing. This is my dashboard this morning, 150 features. I just shipped 26. And they are working fine. No, like my manager approved them. And they are moving faster and faster. And yes, they are delivering more things faster with quality, actually. That is what I think matters most. And I can tell you that from my own experience. I'm also developing like vibe coding, since 2023. And during that process, I learned a lot of, for example, with a client. Now I developed like an actual enterprise application with them. It's called the People Plan. And we started with a basic web page with drop downs. No, it was a really basic application at that moment. That was like a year and a half ago. And then they started to see, hey, well, yeah, we can resolve this other issue, this, and this. And now we have like a massive suite, operations, HR, talent acquisition, and we are starting learning and development. So it's insane, like how much you can do. And from this experience, I can tell you at the beginning, I was doing one file at a time. I was breaking on these files, to check what are the imports, what are the functions, what is the actual front end for this document, no? But now today is, I move into this part of, I'm orchestrating the AI so it can ship features. I can just review if that works, and if it's fine, we are good to go. If there is something additional, now I learned, like if the code goes beyond this amount of lines, like let's say 700, I just review the lines and then I ask the AI to refactor that and then split in models. So it's even better, no? And security is now something I also learn a lot, like tokens, all those kind of things. So I think also on that end, a lot of people will start creating their own custom applications that will just work and solve the issues, that before were almost impossible.
Thank you for that. I'm going to put you on the spot here, and feel free if you don't have an answer. 'Cause we didn't give you any of these questions in advance. This one is do you have something that comes to mind where the AI and the data was saying one thing in terms of a decision or an output, and your human judgment was saying something completely the opposite? Either do you have an example that you can bring up, either your own or something that a secondhand example that you heard from a close colleague that you can convey credibly as if it was close to your own? Is there something that comes to mind? And it's okay if you don't have it because I'm putting you on the spot. But if you do, our audience would love to hear it.
Yes, I think I have an example, and this was this doesn't have to do anything with I don't know engineering or these things. I opened my LLC back in 2023. At that moment, I started to learn a lot about taxes, how the implications. Now I had. At that moment, I started to see that because of the way or the nature of my nationality, the way I work with U.S. clients, etc., I had to provide this document W8 instead of a W9. That this is a basic for everybody in the U.S. Whenever you work with a company, you provide this W9, and then your taxes are filled by that. But then this year, I had this issue where I passed again this to ChatGPT because I was asked from a client, hey, provide me a W9. And I was telling them, no, it's a W8. And then ChatGPT told me, hey, no, yeah, you have to provide a W9. And then I went like again, why? No, like this was a problem because I knew it was a W8, and then I started this conflict, and then I went to 4 different AI tools, ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, Gemini. I started to ask questions to all of them and to gather information, because now here is the word. I think my intuition again was like, and I think if we go back into a book from Ben Jones talks about data literacy. And the process between data literacy is that you learn a lot about how to use data, how to work with that, how to even go through different stages in the data usage. But one of them is the most important, and is the human part, that is the intuition. And then that's where you come back now. Like, I think intuition is what helps you a lot in those cases, because you need to, even if AI is telling you something, that's the reason why all of them have that thing at the bottom. No, AI can make errors. Please verify your the answers. Yes, it was. And I actually hired now a tax advisor that is helping me to gather all that information. But yes, yeah.
Cool. Whilst you were talking about it, I was just thinking about what you were saying earlier. We talked a lot about hiring managers and how you attract talent and all. But I think the role of the management also is changing a lot, right? As an engineering manager, right? I mean, generally, you let's say you join as a software engineer, you become good in a job, and then slowly you rise up, go up the ladder, become an EM, become a VP, and all, right? So slowly moving from writing code to managing people to managing commercials and departments and whatever, right? I think that's how you scale, and your role kind of gets less and less technical and more people and ops manager kind of, right?
Exactly.
And we've been largely talking about AI tools in writing the lines of code. But I think there is, again, a lot of stats out there which says, okay, within a typical engineering or tech department, about 60-70% of the efforts are actually not code writing, but everything else, right? What have you seen, in your experience, what are you seeing from your own experience and from your client work? What's your view on that? And again, just build up on that is do you think there is a space for some kind of agentic tool or an automation to actually reduce that workload?
Yes. I think on that end, what I've seen is that managers or people that get promotions and then start positions that they never worked before. Now, they are now using AI, and I think I saw this with a couple of clients. They recommend people that have promotions, hey, use AI now, not only to discover what you need to do, but also how to manage people, but also like how to make one-on-ones efficient, better, and also you need to take care of the people. No? I think on that end, brainstorming specifically is one thing that a lot of people is doing, but also the voice models. No, they are helping a lot to like develop these specific things that before maybe you were not used to speak with a lot of people, no, because you were like literally writing code or doing this type of stuff, and now with more people in charge, or the more you grow, you also speak in podcasts, go to conferences, meet new people there that is also now with a ton of years of experience, real human experience. No? So I think those voice models are the ones that are helping a lot people to develop these areas of opportunity. I think that there's also, I love, for example, with Gemini, this function to learn when you put the voice model, these new voice functions, I think they were developed like a couple of weeks ago. You get a lot of really interesting questions that, for me, they were impressive. You know, like how how they make those questions without even have a lot of context. Now they infer a lot. And talking and speaking is so natural that you really get really deep into these things that, well, before it was really, really difficult. But yes, I think those voice models are helping a lot. Brainstorming is also like a something that is helping a lot of people not to develop all these things.
Within that, right, I think management generally is more of an art rather than science, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, right? But generally is more of an art and less of a science. But you can't, like, typically in an enterprise you can't just make a random decision and say, here, I have a gut feeling and so on, right? You'll literally just get fired, right? So you have to do completely opposite to what a good manager would be doing, like as in base your decision based on hard fact, based on the data and everything else that you're getting. But typically, within larger departments, you would not really get all the data for you to make your management decision, right? I'll just give you a very simple example, right? Let's say you want to kick off a new project, right? And you want to basically identify who are the right people for you to work on this project. But generally, you will not really have all the information and all the contacts for you to make that decision, and you will just end up making a compromised decision, right? You will just pick the people that you probably end up knowing that, okay, I know this person, he's good, I'm going to take him, right? But his skills or his motivations may not be aligned with the project, right? There might be someone else really good in the department, might be really good in doing this particular new project that you probably have never spoken to, right? Maybe that person is available right now to take on this new project. Maybe their career goals align with this one. But generally, managers would not have all this information available, and they have two choices. Either they will end up spending a lot of time finding that information, or they will just make a compromised decision, right? Do you think this is like really problematic within enterprise space, right? Because how do you deal with all this?
Well, yeah, that's I experienced that actually at WeWork and other companies. Now, like people that were closer to the managers, they were the ones that always started new projects, or they were getting promotions, bonuses, things like that, because they were close to the manager, and the manager was always like, yeah, I know that you are my top recruiter or whatever. Yeah, I saw that many times, and actually, I never thought on how can that be solved, because today it's a lot more about how you like relationships, basically. Like how would you are, I don't know, get along with your manager or your peers, or if you go to all the pizza parties, like all that. But if you are somebody that is like focus on your work and just give results, but never go into these social things, you are not considered. I really don't have right now an answer to that, but it's something we should really care, because it's extremely important. Like really, like engineering managers that have 20 people on their teams.
Yeah.
Those engineering managers or senior managers that have like 5 managers below them and then 20 people below, like that's insane, because you will never know each of them. And choosing people for a project or shipping new features or including them into other teams, it will always be about relationships currently, more than that.
Yeah. And do you think companies should invest more within that space? Because ultimately, that's really, in my view, would be a critical factor to your organization's success. Because as a manager, if you are making a compromised decision, means your outcomes are going to be compromised.
Yeah, totally. And I think this includes a lot of human emotions. I can say bias, especially, Um, in a company that I work, or the last company I worked, there were a massive bias of including people from a specific country than the one that I'm living. And that was interesting to analyze, because it was the culture. The culture of the company was like, let's include the people locally, but not from other countries, because we want to keep everything here. Yeah, and that was some kind of bias, because but then no, again, like these people is closer to me physically. We are in the same country, we are in the same team. Like, let's choose these people before people outside, even if they are in our team. Even if the skill set is completely different, and all those things. I don't know, like for example, how we can log that in order to use it to then choose the right people. That might be a good solution, to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. This is great. And John, do you want to throw in
Sure.
any curveball for Levi?
Sure. Well, we'll take one question from our audience that was posted. Sagar said, "Do you have any thoughts on?" I'll ask a version of his question. Thoughts on the impact of AI on talent operations in specific markets. He had asked specifically about India. You may not be an India specialist, so if you can speak to, if you are, any thoughts on India, feel free. But if you don't have any specific thoughts on India, but can speak to impact across different markets, whether it's the U.S. versus Latin America versus Europe versus Asia, if you have any thoughts there, the audience would love to hear that.
I think the interesting thing about talent operations is that the issues are the exact same in globally, like all the world. Like I think there is no bias or anything that can influence that. The problem is the same, that we get 1,000 candidates, we can't review all of them, and then talent operation is blamed because hey, how can we review all candidates, and how can we be more efficient and productive and bring more interviews to the plate, and blah blah. So talent operations, I think, this year and next year will be focused also on developing like these custom solutions. I worked last year in one solution. One client was all the time telling me, hey, there is a massive problem because greenhouse, my system, they can only provide offers to candidates, but I want to also send contracts, no, internationally. I have offers in the US, but I want to send contracts in UK or Asia countries or whatever. And that was a system limitation, no? But I came and told him, hey, let me build a custom solution for you and let's try to implement it. Mm-hmm. And I developed the actual now offer contract web page. And it's a single web page where you, instead of creating the offer from Greenhouse, now you go to this web page from Greenhouse, you trigger from Greenhouse, and then you send an offer or a contract. And now with this solution, they are really happy. I think those are the custom solutions that now we are maybe we now have the tools to or resources to build and then provide them to all of them. And they will cost like 10x or less, no, than actual products. And we don't have like all the premium features that we want, no, like Greenhouse, for example, this specific case. A lot of companies, I saw 3-4 companies in the past that they wanted to send contracts, not offers, contracts, no, or employment agreements, and that is still a limitation that we have seen for over 6 years. Other systems, no, that have also limitations. Now you can build the feature, like just that feature, and then ship it also with your teams. There is a lot of potential, for example, with Google Sheets. I know this sounds really dumb, but Google Sheets with apps, scripts, it's something that, oh my God, a lot of people don't know, but it's a gold mine. You can develop solutions inside, like macros in Excel, solutions inside Google Sheets that can ship API requests or integrations with systems that will help you a lot now. But I think for talent operations, that is the thing this year and next year, like shipping solutions custom solutions that we don't have.
Yeah. I'll ask one last question, and then Malik, I think you're going to close it up here. What is one area that you think we should absolutely not be using AI? Either the models aren't there, software, the top of stack applications are there. What's one area that comes to mind where maybe some people think you can use AI or some type of automation, but you think the opposite? And feel free to be a little counterintuitive or against consensus if something comes to mind.
Now, that's also interesting because I really don't have right now an area that you can't use AI. I think you have to always be careful on how you use it and how you also influence answers. I think it's super important always being asked the AI to be objective and provide you resources like links to the sources and everything. Because I as an AI user all the time, I've used, for example, to learn about the purchasing in enterprise companies. No, I learned about finance, how to handle finances, taxes, no, with this personal issue. Human resources, talent operations, payroll. Now, like I'm doing a project where I'm migrating employees, and now I know like the Mexican law, like like I have even articles, specific articles of that, and that is my source of truth, not the actual response from the AI. No, so I think it's more about getting the right resources and truth, no, from those things. And if you don't have an actual resource where you can go and check, I think that's where you have to maybe think that if that's helping you, or if you need more, I don't know, to dig more on that.
Cool, great. I'm just looking at time, and we are almost coming close to an hour, and we've been talking and talking, and I'm sure we can continue talking a lot more, right, on this topic. But I think just mindful of the time, I think we'll close to a wrap. But before I end, Anjan, do you think there is any question from the audience that we should be answering?
I think that was the question that we had on markets was a relevant one to consider. We did get a question, and I don't know if this is going to be in your area of expertise, but I'll ask it anyways. You talked about AI being used in interviews, and this was a question more about universities and education, which is not exactly your area of focus. But there might be some thoughts that you could offer here as well. Like, do you see, for instance, work assignments or tests? Just having been in this space, and that's education is part of the human capital pipeline, just a different part of the pipeline than what you deal with. You deal with folks who are coming out of that part of the pipeline. But given that you're not too distant from it, what are your thoughts on how AI may impact, for instance, assignments? And to the extent you interact with universities or educators or students, can you offer any thoughts there?
Yes, yeah. I think, and this is crazy, no? Because we are seeing every week like 4 or 5 different new things. Today, specifically, Anthropic shared that they are doing this partnership with an education institution where they are looking again, no, to how we make a difference on the way we educate people in schools, in universities, like all these things. I've seen that there are some approaches now with the learn functions that we have on ChatGPT, on Gemini, and Anthropic, blah, blah. Like those learn functions are configured a bit different. They are not far from what the normal chat it is, but they ask more questions to you. And the answers are used to then ask other questions. And I think this is specifically where I go again into the brainstorm part. I've heard from a couple of folks here in Mexico specifically that in some schools they are using these voice models where at the beginning the framing is, we are going to talk about this topic, please ask a lot of questions to the audience and let's start. And then they bring a topic they discuss, and then this AI is asking questions, but more for critical thinking specifically. I think those are currently the usage or the ones that they are using more. Math, I've seen how to resolve, equations. It's one of the things that before was so complex. I'm terrible at math, but now with these things, you can even see the process of how to resolve things, and you can apply that same thing into a lot of other things. So I've seen that. Yeah.
I was actually in SF just before December, like in November, and there was billboards in SF, right? Literally, this one startup saying, "Okay, we help you cheat in your exams."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and that was like crazy if you think about, right? But pretty much like an SF, probably very SF thing that, hey, we built some amazing tool which helps you break all the rules and go around the system, and that's what if you are looking for, then we are the one, right? So I think that was really crazy for me. But hey, you know what? We're coming like to the top of the hour. I think, mindful of the time, would be great for us to wrap this session today. Levi, this was amazing. As usual, was great to get your insights about the whole talent ops and the leveraging modern technologies in getting the right talent and building a high performing departments and the tools. That was amazing. I wish you all the very best. Again, with your endeavors on what you are doing, would be great to collaborate with you again. I hope in a few months' time when we have more to talk about, maybe slightly new things that are coming to the market, right? So would love to have you again, in a few months' time. But for today, I think I would wrap up now. And once again, thanks a lot for your time and for your wonderful insights. Thank you,
Yes.
Levi.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you,
Cool.
Levy.
All right. And to all the audience, folks who have been online, thanks a lot for joining our live session as well. As usual, we'll be editing and posting it out live on YouTube and on Spotify in a couple of days' time. And if you want to keep in the know, then do sign up to our newsletter and also subscribe to our Luma calendar where we publish all our live events. So until then, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good evening.
Bye.